And welcome to today's show, Global Citizen Life. Today we have Sherell Edwards on our show joining us. So thank you very much, Sherell, for taking your time to join us and talk about your journey today.
Thank you for having me.
So can you share a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey and a little bit behind how you got to where you are, what happened, and maybe a few successes and obstacles along the way?
Woo, that's a mouthful. Well, currently I am I'm Dr. Sherell Edwards, and I am a certified phytotherapist and health consultant. I do that through one of my 3 LLCs that I manage, and that LLC is All One Life, where our main purpose is to help people determine the root cause of their chronic illness through lab work testing and assessments. So that's what we do through that window. I also manage 2 other LLCs. One is a dispute resolution company, and the other one is a wholesale company. So we stay pretty busy. I can't do all of this alone. I do it with a wonderful team of VA assistants that help me manage the different day-to-day operations for those companies. And that's how I'm able to focus on what I've been called to do, which is to be a healer and to help people through healthcare.
Excellent. Yeah, and I'm sure running three companies is definitely time consuming.
So it can be. Yeah, it can be. You have to, I believe in getting good people and allowing them to do what they do best. I don't babysit. I do monitor for results, but I'm not a babysitter. I love to, if I can, I pay people as well as I can to do the best that they can. And that's really been my motto, and it's kind of worked for me.
Yeah, and I think that's great. It's good to have people who enjoy doing what they do, because there's parts of a business, I mean, we're not going to love it all. And everybody, like, there are people that are way better at a lot of things than I am. And it's just good to be like, great, you know what? You love to do that. You're way better. It's better for me to get you to do that. It saves us time. It saves us money. It saves us aggravation, headache, all of those things.
Absolutely. And bottom line is your customers can tell when you're providing a service, when it's only a monetary interest versus when you just love serving people. So that's why I like to get people that want to do what it is they do. They have that skill set and that's what they want to be doing. And so that gives me an opportunity to do what I do best. And that's to try to feed and grow these businesses so that they are efficient for people, the people that they serve.
That's great. And there's all kinds of new things always on the internet, different softwares and things like that. So what type of strategies have you used or implemented to help increase profitability or increase our clients' outcomes to make them as best they can?
We have shifted. My teams are wonderful with that. They like all these new tools. I'm not well versed in that, but I do get to benefit from it. I'll say that. We'll use Loom because we've been shifting the way that we record our new policies and procedures, those updates. You're constantly updating things as you change or you add in different services and products. So they like to use Loom to record for different policies and procedures. We have our own chat system for for meetings and to contact each other and to reach out to each other for different things. But then when I just want to mend and build collaboration and communication skills, then I'll call a big Zoom. Everybody gets on Zoom, so they take advantage of a lot of stuff. A lot of it I'm not even well versed on. Can't tell you how to start it, but the company benefits from it. So I'm grateful to that wonderful team of people that bring us those, and that's why they're hired. They bring us those wonderful ideas and those wonderful tools to benefit from and use. But technology has totally shifted the way that we do business since I got in. I first got my first business by myself, 2008. And from there to now, business looks totally different. I'm a notary here in my state, and I filled out something, and a lady say, "Oh, you were doing notary before there was something," she said, and it was like some kind of technology. I said, "Yeah, I was doing notary before all technology."
You had to come in with your ID, sit down in front of me. We signed
Right,
paper.
right,
Yeah.
right. So
Stamped
I'm yeah, I told a dinosaur age, yes. So so yeah, I mean, from then to now, things look totally different. And I'm glad for it. I'm always, you have to always maintain, especially with healthcare, you always have to remember to maintain a level of privacy and ethics with the use of those things, because sometimes they're so good, they're too good, to where you risk privacy, you risk different things, you risk authenticity, you risk things being leaked out that shouldn't be released and stuff like that. So you have to be careful with that. But at the same time, they benefit for the use that they provide, and we try to take advantage.
That's right. No, that's right. And it's good, there's good and bad to just almost everything, right? Like we can use so many things, even just social media. I mean, social media has its advantages and its benefits. And it was funny. It was actually a clip. I was on social media scrolling through some stuff, and it was a clip. And I think it was Lady Gaga who said, let's be honest, social media can be the toilet of the internet, because it can really be bad, right? So it's the same thing. And it depends on two things. It depends on what you choose to put out there. You can choose to put out good or bad. And then also what you take away from it, what you're watching, what you're ingesting can be good or bad. So it can be, for some people, for many people, like they are doing very well and living well, and other people are educating so many. And then there's the negative of it as well. And that's the way it is with a lot of things, that we can find its benefit. And I'm sure a lot of your employees feel great that you're open to new things, that even if you're not, as you said, well-versed in stuff or new things that are coming up, that they're comfortable in approaching you or saying, hey, I'm sure they said, do you know of this? Can we try this? And that makes them feel really as part of the team, as opposed to this is how it's done, do it this way, and that's it.
Oh, absolutely. That is the key to that. When you bring people in, that should be part of your core, is collaboration. You bring these people in, and behind pay, the second reason that people leave companies is because their skill sets are not being maximized. They're not being utilized properly. So they get disinterested, and then they wander off. And so that's the second reason behind pay, that people will leave a company. So I try to make sure that everybody gets a voice in something. We have a project going. I'll call the quiet person first. I want everybody, whoever it is, like they say, you're good as your weakest link. So I pull everybody in. You never know when you're going to be pulled in for input or to start a conversation, or to brainstorm on something that we're working on, a new project or whatever it is. So that's the gist of team dynamics and team building. You have to know how to utilize skills very well, or you're just wasting money.
Yeah, no, I agree too. And it's everybody, it's a thing too with like brainstorming, right? Everybody has had different experiences, different thoughts, different things going on. And so sometimes we can say something and we know it's like, well, I know it's not the right answer. Let's just say it's not the right answer, or not the right way to go. It's like something along the lines of ABC, and then somebody hears that and it makes them think of something else. And so it always isn't, people need to be comfortable with saying, I think, can we try this? Or have you thought of that? Even when we know it's not the right or the solution, but it gets things going. And sometimes, it definitely helps, because I've worked with people, but sometimes I'm so focused on something and I'll ask a friend or a colleague or something. I'll be like, hey, I'm doing this. Do you think this or that? And they'll say something completely like not even close to what and they say it. And as soon as it's said, I just think, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Why didn't I? And they're like, you're just too focused in it. And it's good to have that outside that works.
Absolutely. Yeah, we all fall into that tunnel vision
I
thing.
think we have a
And
bit of a, hopefully it'll be okay. The weather here where I'm at, we're having a lot of rain. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
We can just do some editing there. It was a bit of a, I had that flash connection unstable, so I think it might be the weather.
Okay. Okay.
So let's see, where were we?
Tunnel vision. We were talking about that and getting back focused. And like you said, somebody will say something and it just like brings light right back into the middle of what we're trying to do, and feeds us on to the end. So that's, yeah, it's good. And just clear thinking from the outside always, that always helps. That always helps, because if you're leader, you're balancing a number of things. Team member, they have just what's in front of them to deal with. So it's always good to hone in on their skills. And some of them are real quick with it, with ideas of things that they've been thinking about or they want to suggest. I was like, oh no, reel them out. I'm not telling you we're gonna do them, but definitely share. And
right.
You never know, maybe not this time, but next week we might need to use that. So oh, absolutely. Yeah. I love people that like to feed the process and better the company. We all look good.
Yeah, exactly. And it is that too. It's they feel good, they're proud to work there, their voices are heard, they feel like they're part of the team. And that's what we all want. We don't want to just be a number, nobody listens to us, we go to work, we sit, do our thing, and then go home. Like, we want to feel part of a team and part of a company. And as you said, that is a great way to retain quality people, is to have them feeling good and enjoying it. And it's good for the company as well, because then people talk good, people are happy to go to work, and then clients and customers and everything, it translates through the company to them as well.
Absolutely. There's nothing like collaboration and good communication in a team. You got those two things down pat, everything else you'll overcome. So those are good things. Those are really good. Those are great.
Absolutely. What are some of the most important habits or routines that have helped you maintain productivity and focus as a business owner?
Like I said, we have that team chat thing that we use. I told them we use that anytime. That's open to use anytime, even if we're not working hours. If something needs to, be said work related, but it's kind of off the hours or whatever, and we use that so that open communication, I guess, is the answer. Open communication, that is so key. And then too, like I said, learning each other's language style, because I can say a sentence in a text or an email and it may come off one way to you, but then when we are face to face, we're on a Zoom, we're looking at each other and we can hear each other's tone, then we can understand, oh, okay, so when she says that, this is what she means. So yeah, I'm big on decoding communication as well, so that we understand the way that each other communicate. I have one of the guys that on one of my teams, and he's a big jokester and sinister type guy. So he's sarcastic sometimes in some of his replies, but we know that because we've learned his communication. Had we just stuck with email or text, we would have never picked up, and we would have thought sometimes he was being rude or trying to be a deviation in the process. But we understand his way, so we just laugh it off and keep on going, or we might even throw something back at him and keep on going in the conversation.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up too, because that's so good. If we read emails and text messages depending upon our mood, not the writer's mood, because we don't know the sender's mood. So I could give you news and you could say, that's great. And now if I'm in a great mood, that's great. Good. She said, that's great. And if I'm not in a good mood, that's great. And same words, but just different tone. And you're right. If you can't see the person or it's not, verbal, then it really is hard. And a lot of times, and I'm sure there's been a lot of changes for you as well too, with the last few years with the pandemic. I don't know how often you meet with your team in person, or if they're kind of around the world, but it's where I think that the balance of working from home and having to go into the office, I think it should be split. I think it's best to have some, if you're 5 days a week, like a 3-day, 2-day somehow split, because we do, I feel, need that in-person communication, that to know the people, to get that energy from them, to know how they talk. If they say certain things, we understand. It's like, oh, when they were, oh, I, as you said, I took it this way, but no, that's not how they were wanting it to be taken.
Yeah, I found out, like in the early stages, when you get new team members in, I will call, or I was like, I know, I'll be like, I'm going to call you right now. And, can you answer your phone? I'm going to call you right now, because like you said, we're learning. And then once I pulled them in a few times into the meeting, we start to learn, that we have them talk. Yeah, we're gonna have you dialogue, and we start to learn okay, so now we understand, your way of language and what you mean when you say certain things. Or if I were to say something to you, I request something from you and you reply, then I'll understand what that means from you. So yeah, it's always technology has its pluses, and then there's also the things that we still have to do regardless. Some things you just can't erase, and good communication is one of them.
I find it's one, generally, it's crazy, as human beings who've been around for thousands of years now, we suck at communication. We really do. Like, look at all this technology we design, all these things that we do, but we truly are terrible at communication. One thing that I learned one time, a long time ago, it was my mother-in-law. I can't remember what we're talking, something about communication. And she said, if something's really important, like I'll say something to my husband, and if it's really important, as soon as I'm done saying it, I'll ask him, what did I say? To make sure he heard, either he heard what I said, or I communicated properly what I said, because we've all done it. I've done it. We get into an argument with somebody and they say, well, you said blah, blah, blah. And then I've said, well, I didn't mean it that way. It's like, but those were the words I used. And so interpretation of the same words is also, so I always say to people, there's 3 sides to every story. And some people will say, well, there's only 2 of us. And I'm like, no, but there's 3 sides, because there's what you said, what the other person heard, and kind of what was meant. And the reality is somewhere in the middle.
That neutral place. Absolutely.
That's right. So yeah, it's communication is, I think it's something we all need to work on. And, myself included, there's times that, yeah, I'm just not good at it, but we should be great at it by now.
You think after years of practice? No, we still don't. And that's the reason why we don't need to take things personally. A lot of times people see stuff or something gets said, and automatically people, like you said, depending on our mood, would take things personally. Never take stuff, especially in business. I've learned that. I had to learn that. It took me the first few years. It was tough, because I just wanted everything to go right there, and I had to learn, don't take stuff personally. You don't never know, where things are coming from. Or maybe, like you said, maybe I'm just misreading. I'm reading more into it than what was meant. So yeah, never take things personally, and especially in the business forum.
Right. And I think that's definitely great advice, because, lots of things we don't know what the other person's going through. They could be having a bad day, a bad week, a bad year, and it could be just us. It could be our interpretation. Maybe we didn't communicate properly. So you're right. That is a great piece of advice, to never take things personally. So also too, what do you think, you could say either for you within your 3 businesses, and it may not be all exactly the same, but generally, what do you think are the most or our highest expenses when it comes to business? What costs us the most?
Oh my goodness. At first it was marketing, and I still would say marketing is pretty up there, because you're always promoting your business, and especially if you're into products. Now I have the wholesale business that is in the product, so there's a lot of marketing money dollars spent there, until you get to a good place, a good stride where word of mouth. But even then, when you're doing national and international business, you just can't stop. Yeah. So it's just that's one of the top ones. Payroll is quite up there, right there, probably above the marketing. So, because if you're paying people a halfway decent wage, that's, those add up pretty fast. So I would say payroll, marketing is right there close. If it's not equal, close second. Like those annual fees and stuff, they come around once a year, but I know here where I live at, they're not excessively bad. Because to renew a LLC here in the state of Florida is $138 a year.
Okay.
So that's not too bad.
But times three, so
times three, right? There are states that are less. They charge less than that. So there are states that are less than that. But on the average, that's the $130 is not too bad, because then there are states that charge $400.
Right. And then also too, within the United States, there's the state tax and then the federal tax.
Right. If you're in a state that pays state taxes, absolutely. I'm in one of the 4 states that does not assess state tax. I'm in Florida. So Florida, Texas, I believe it's Vermont, and somewhere else. I know they don't charge state tax, but all the other states do.
They do. So taxes for some can be up there as well.
Absolutely.
Have you considered moving or utilizing any international tax planning for any of your companies?
I have definitely been considering moving abroad here for the last 6 to 8 months, and really seeking behind the scenes on looking at some places and some things. So that is definitely something that is on my personal radar.
Okay, and that's what I was going to ask you. You said move. So are you thinking like physically yourself moving your corporations, or both?
Probably will be a combination of both.
Okay.
One of the businesses probably would stay here and be managed. I could do what I need to do from where I'm at, and then be managed from here. And then one of the other would go with me. I would have to be a foreign entity and go wherever I go, but definitely looking at some key options there. As far as moving abroad is concerned, it's always interested me. But when I was younger, raising a family and then doing all this professional stuff, so you can only handle so much in a day's time. But often it's always been something that's always been at the back of my mind. And so now I've been an empty nester here since 2016, and had a chance to focus more on my businesses and finally grow some of them and really do some in-depth stuff with my businesses. So now that my businesses have survived the pandemic, I can look more at the abroad thing and some more of those personal / business goals that I've been wanting to do for some time. And in the meantime, I still travel. So I've gotten a chance to see some places. So that's what also piques your interest when you go and take in the scene, and you get to take in the other cultures outside of the U.S. and where you live at. So that's also something that I try to. My goal for yearly is definitely 3 trips a year, international.
Yeah.
But sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. But here lately I've because of the pandemic, we couldn't go certain places and stuff like that. So that kind of limited it, my ability to do that. But now that the gate's been lifted, I'm back out there.
Good to get out searching again. And yes, there's several countries that have better tax rates, and you don't necessarily have to live there. Some you need to, some you have to visit maybe a couple of days or a few months a year, and so there's definitely a lot of options. Sometimes people they think that because they live in a country that's where a corporation needs to be, and that's what I thought years ago too. I used to think, well, I live in Canada, so my company needs to be in Canada. My bank accounts need to be in Canada. Like, that's because that's where I live.
Mm-hmm.
And over the last probably about 13 years now, about 13 years ago, I started to find out, well, that's not exactly true, and have been helping people diversify in things. And there are a lot of options out there. Even if you wanted to stay in the United States, there would still be options that are tax benefit, asset protection benefit as well. And that's why I was wondering if you planned on going as well, or if you were thinking of just, changing.
It's gonna be me. Yeah, I'm making the change.
You're like, I'm ready for it. It's time.
It's gonna be me.
No, and I hear you. I mean, I made the change from Canada in 2011 is when I first left Canada. I went to Costa Rica. I spent 5 years there. I've lived in Spain. I've got a place now in Montenegro, and I'm looking to relocate for home base later on this year again. So
nice.
I've been to a few, and pros and cons to all of them. Like I've said to people too, I'm like, there's benefit corporation wise. To move a corporation, to me, it's just straight up benefit if you pick the right place. Living wise, there's always some pros and cons. There is no perfect place in the world, at least not for me. There's too many things I want.
Absolutely.
But that's why I decided for me, then my perfect is ideally having 3 or 4 places in 3 or 4 countries and completely diversifying. So I get a little bit, I get the mountainous area, but I don't like winter. So I can't be in the mountains in the winter. It gets too cold, too much snow. But during the summer, love the mountains.
And too much wildlife.
And then summertime, I love summer. I love the beach. So, I need to have more than one place to have my perfect life. Perfect. Well, even still, that's not perfect, but it's designed the way we like it.
Absolutely. A piece of, like you said, piece of life everywhere. So that's wonderful. And that is definitely possible, much more so than, like you said, we thought before. So it's a lot of options out there. I was just for instance, I do my wholesale business does some real estate investing type stuff. Okay. And there's a guy very popular here in the States that does some real estate investing. He's relocated to Dubai, and he started to report that whole journey and the benefits there. They don't even charge taxes there like they do in the
areas. They never used to charge it all, but now some of the other countries and governments weren't liking it too much, so they said, okay, fine. In kind of certain areas, we will charge, and it's more kind of the brick and mortar businesses that will have to start paying some tax, but they still have free zones where it is tax free. Yeah.
Right. And then too, it's going to be, from what I'm reading, it's flat rates. Here in the States, it's based on what you've earned, after you reported all that money, and they tax you so much on the back end. It's almost like they're a backdoor partner.
And sometimes the more you make, the more they take.
And that's exactly what happens.
And then it's even worse. I mean, because, and I get there needs to be some level of taxation, but we make money, then we have to pay taxes. And then what's left, when we spend it, we pay tax on the things that we buy. So people will say, oh, well, I only pay, like 12, 18, 20. Some are like, oh yeah, it's like 24%. It's not too bad. I'm like, oh gosh, that's a lot. But it's not just that. It's like, okay, well, that is gone. But then everything you spend, you're taxed again on that, even if it's, like here in Alberta. So I'm originally from Canada, in Alberta, and we have a provincial tax at 5%. And it's the lowest, like when we purchase things, it's the lowest anywhere in Canada. Others have 5% plus another, like a GST and an HST. So not only are you paying taxes on your income, but then every time you're buying, you're paying a minimum in Canada is 5%. It could be plus up to 12% on top of the things that you're purchasing. So I'm like, you're paying a lot more tax than what you really figure that you're paying. Now, purchases, obviously, we're never going to avoid that. But I think, why don't we work within the law, within the rules? I don't want to break any rules. I don't want to be worried about anything, and really reduce our taxes or pay no taxes. And it happened to me one time, and that's when I really kind of started to get into things and checking out taxes and how it works, because I had a vacation property. And with a vacation property, you get income, of course. But with vacation property, you also have expenses. Things get broken, things need to be cleaned. And so I had a property management company They take care of it all. And so I did my taxes, no problem. A few years, doing it, no problem. And then one year I get a letter from the government, we're auditing you. And I'm like, okay, like, that's fine. It's just a random, they do however many random audits. And probably because I had rental property or something, vacation property. So I'm like, fine, no problem. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was like, yeah, here, human company of, what they had to pay for. Here's the income, all of that. I was like, it's fine.
No problem. Wow.
Yeah, no problem. So, I don't know, a month or two, whatever it took, they send me a letter. They're like, well, we've decided that we're accepting your income because you did make income, but we're not accepting any of your deductions. 0. I'm like, what? Like, it's like gardener, property management company, some maintenance things, none of them. And I'm like, how anybody in their right mind can say, yes, you have rental property that brings an income, but you have 0 expense. And so then they said, so now we're redoing your taxes. And because that was 2 years ago, because they went back a couple of years, you now owe us interest on all of that.
In those 2
and
years.
I'm like, I won't say those words.
Right.
I couldn't believe it. And then I thought, okay, if that's the way it's going to be, I was good. I'm like, I'm going to find out your rules and I'm going to start playing by your rules. And so since then, I'm like, I don't need to be incorporated in Canada. I don't have to have things there. I can move it to where it's, 3%, 5%, 9%, or
Flat
0.
rate.
And even with 0, of course, I want to keep receipts for a while because as a business owner, I want to know where my money's going.
That's right.
But I don't have to be like, ooh, this was a business dinner. Is the government going to accept it or not accept it? Because it's like, who cares? I'm not paying, I pay 0 corporate tax. So I will keep it from my own records so I know what I'm doing. And then at the end of the year, whatever, I don't need to keep something for 7 years. And have you ever looked at a receipt? 1 year, 3 years, 5 years?
You can barely read. You can barely read it. That's right. So then if you don't take it,
that's not a good receipt.
If you don't take it and scan it that day, you can't even read it anymore. So it's no good to you. And then there you stuck unless, I guess, and that's why a lot of people say they just choose to operate by their credit cards because then they can pull up their credit card statements. But
Canada doesn't allow credit card statements. You had to have, or at least when I was here, like back, so 10 years ago when I was here before, as I said, because I've been gone, but back then, it had to be the actual receipt. A credit card statement was not efficient.
Wow.
Maybe they've changed that now. I don't know, but yeah. So I just thought, you know what? No, I'm gonna work within their rules. And that's what I do because I don't want the hassle of is this going to be good? Am I going to get audited? Is it going to be accepted? Like, no, it's just like, I'd rather just have my company in a no tax, or for some people, they prefer to have clients that the low tax, they're fine with that. And then just not even worry about it.
That's it. And yeah, because I tell them, I say foreign entities is not as bad as people think. That's not the worst thing in the world.
They're actually good. It was, TV and, because it's for entertainment. And then the government doesn't really want you to do it because they don't want people to know. And the media is terrible because if you have an offshore corporation, you are like money laundering. You are in the mafia. You are like horrible person.
Yeah, they tied to crime.
I've had people, they're like, if you have that, you'll go to jail. And I said, well, Elon Musk is not in jail. He has some corporate in the US, but international as well. I'm like, Google, I believe Google is set up in Ireland. Jeff Bezos, he's not in jail. He's got it split up into 2 or 3 countries. And I mean, it's public knowledge. I just don't recall the countries off the top of my head that they have their corporation registered in different countries for tax purposes. It's lower taxes and they would have to pay.
Look at Richard Branson. He owns all of these Waffle Houses. He does it. The company is housed over wherever he's at.
British Virgin Islands or something.
Virgin Islands, yeah. So that's the home space, and the locations are here. But because of him being stationed there, he hardly gets taxed in the money because over there it's not taxed, and the operations and everything is over here, so it's a win-win for him. And like you said, he's not in jail.
No, it's not illegal. It's not illegal.
It's not.
There are certain countries where you do have to be a resident to open up a corporation in that country. And there are some, but there's many countries that they just say, oh, you want to open up a corporation? Sure. You pay the expenses to open it, and you pay little taxes or no taxes, because they know that most times you're at least going to be visiting that country or going there. You're going to be spending money there. And some people just have the company and they don't ever go there, but then the banking's there. So if your bank account is there, and as we know how banks work, we put our money in there. It's just numbers, and they loan that out to other people at a higher interest rate. So even if we're not there, they're like, well, your business is here, your bank is here. So and your money's here. So we get to use your money and make money off your money. So
absolutely. It's a benefit to them. So right.
It is.
So they're not worried about where you live at, or where you at tomorrow. Yeah.
No, like they, and of course they do checks. They make sure it's legitimate business, and they do things. So, and I was talking to somebody too the other day, and I was like, even if, there are people who probably, yes, do launder money through other countries, but people launder money through the United States. People launder money in Canada. Like if somebody really wants to break the law and do it, they're do it no matter where they live. They're going to do it no matter where they live.
That's right.
I want to do it, not launder money, but I want to have my business done legitly and legally, so I don't have to worry about it. I'm within their rules, and I pay substantially less or no taxes compared to what I would be paying if I was still in Canada.
And unfortunately, like you said, so many times we have to learn the lesson, that the thing that you went through, we have to learn that lesson, but then that opens our eyes and that makes us do some homework. So it benefits us down the line. So that it still paid off. The instance paid off in the end, because now you have that information to live off of for a long, long time.
That's right. That's right. And now I'm helping others, because I'm I know what they do. I know how sneaky the government is, and how, especially the last few years since the pandemic, like I used to really think like Canada's a great country. I left partially because I hate winter and it's so long and cold. But when the pandemic hit, and things really started to change like overnight, and some of the things they did, one of the biggest things was, and you probably heard about it, there was the trucker protest. And I don't want to get into like, should you get vaccinated, shouldn't you, whatever, but it was like the whole point is like when the protest was going on, and in every protest there's always some bad apples. There are people who will just go out to start problems because that's what they want to do. I think in the majority of protests around the world, most of them, people don't want violence. They just want their voices heard. They'll protest, but they don't get involved in violence. But there's always a few. So that's what the media always focuses on. The media focuses on the violent part. But when they said, the Trudeau government said, well, for people who protest, then what we're going to do is we're going to freeze their bank accounts. And for people who donate to the protesters to help them, we'll freeze their bank accounts too. And if that doesn't work, or if, things keep going on, then we won't renew their passports. We won't give them passports. And I just thought, are you kidding me? Like, in our national anthem, we're the home of the free. That's not free. It's, if you do what we say, then you're free. But if you don't, then you're not. Like, that's not freedom. That's
right.
That's not. And then that's when I really decided, like, I really need to let people know that they don't have to be stuck in one country, and nobody should ever have just one bank account in their home country. They should always have another in some other country, and you can open ones up online. You can do it without visiting the country. It's a little bit harder, of course, but it can be done. But trust me, if your bank accounts got frozen for even if you didn't donate to a protest, identity theft. Right. If identity theft and your bank account is frozen, how are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to buy groceries? Right. You're going to be borrowing money from friends or family until it gets resolved. Like, and that could take, I don't even know how long it could take to resolve that stuff. So I always recommend to people, and have been for years, I'm just always like, open up another bank account in another country, or where the local government doesn't have easy access to freeze it or something. And it's just like a backup in case. Not that I'm saying people are going to, and some people are like, I'm never going to do anything illegal. It's like, it's not about you doing anything illegal. Like, what if somebody steals your identity?
Right. Yeah,
That's it.
I've
That's
been a
all.
victim of that. I've been a victim of that. I
Oh,
can tell people what happens with that. That is a mess, and that's not easy to get out of. And even years down the line, things can resurface because of that one incident. Yeah. So I know what that looks like and feels like. Yeah.
that'd be
Mm-hmm.
awful. So we always, with the technology, it's so good and things, but we need to be aware, and we need to make sure we have kind of backups and protection for that, whether it's personally and for our business as well, for both. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
great. So
Absolutely.
what have you found are some of the most significant changes or shifts that you've observed in your industry over the last few years, or compare, because I know you've got three different ones. So have you noticed more within one, or what kind of major ones kind of going through the pandemic and coming out of it?
Well, the thing about healthcare, the pandemic did not, that's one field it did not affect. And robotics is still the future of healthcare. So a lot of things now being replaced. We were already doing medical scanning, records and stuff like that was already being done 12 years ago. But now robots are going to be coming in, taking blood pressure readings and robotics is taking over healthcare. So that the pandemic only gave them more time and space to get that stuff refined and done. So that has not stopped. Wholesale business, same thing. There's always going to be items and digital products to be sold. There's information is going to always be being transferred from one end to the other. That has not changed. Maybe how we do it now changes in the way, in the modes that we do them in, that there's been additions to that. But AI, chat GPT,
Oh yeah.
primary thing. I feel bad for the photographers. Now they have the AI system that does the photography. Beautiful work. You see these people posting these pictures. I was like, I just saw her yesterday. She didn't look like that. Yeah, the AI software is wonderful, wonderful. And so photographers, I would suggest that they learn how to do that, how to operate and teach people how to use that to keep them relevant in today's time, because that's what's replacing in people.
Yeah, I agree. Even just so, I have a friend of mine who does some translation work because she speaks many languages and fluently. And she has seen a reduction. Part is a reduction in work, or what they'll do is they'll say, well, I've had AI translate it. Can you just go through it and make sure that it's right? So it reduces either pay or number of work. And so it is writers and things as well. I think it definitely is a shift. People are going to have to learn to work with it for now. Some jobs will eventually be phased out. There will be people that absolutely will have to do something else if they're not going to be working with it.
Oh yeah. If you're not financially fit to not work anymore, then they are definitely going to have to shift and do some things different really fast, because that stuff is rolling out very fast.
It just seems like every day there's a new type of AI, like you said, whether it's photography or writing or like all kinds of stuff and it just seems like, oh my gosh, it seemed almost, for me anyway, there was bits. I was going back through some old emails and deleting a bunch of stuff, and there was bits coming out in probably around early 2022 is when I started it. But I mean, it was so rare and whatever. I'm kind of like, oh yeah, okay. And then all of a sudden it was like when Chat GPT came out, it was like overnight game changer. And then it just seemed that every day or every few days or definitely every week, there was a new type of chat, a new AI, all kind of, I'm just like, oh my gosh, where did all of this come from?
Yeah. They were just waiting in the rafters. Those folks, I said, those were the people while we were out here scuffling with COVID-19 and vaccinations and all that, and 6 feet lines and all that stuff. They were heads down working on this stuff, because now robotics is just popping up everywhere. And That's the future. That's where we're headed to. And if you don't have a piece of that or understand where you fit in that process, it's gonna be pretty dire straits for some people.
That's right. That's right. So looking ahead, what are your goals and aspirations for the future for your businesses?
Ooh, well, technology has changed so many things. So that I'm glad to that deliverance, because that'll help me in my transition abroad and doing some things, internationally. That'll help me. So it's going to be, I think it's definitely going to enable a lot of, things of transitioning functions and stuff like that. And you'll still need some kind of, team, or you'll still need people to do certain things, but I may not need as many. So, we'll see, but yeah, it's definitely going to help the transition go a lot more smoother. Time management is definitely one of those things that is being captured by the technology. So that's definitely another thing. Scheduling is all that stuff that'll be done electronically. You won't have to touch a thing. So it's just, I think it's definitely gonna make the move much more smoother. It's gonna give me an opportunity to look at some other things. You never know. Might sell off one thing and pick up something else, or maybe nothing else. You never know. Just depends on where I decide to, where I end up, where I land and
where you put those roots.
Exactly, where I place the new roots at, right? So
yeah, we'll and there's always different and new opportunities in different places.
Absolutely. They're doing different things in other which is the wonderful thing about when you vacation and you get to take that couple of days and just see and just sit back and watch that. They're in action, so that's just their normal life. But it's so awesome to just go out and watch. That's what I call it, landscape watching. When you travel and you go on vacation, you landscape watching. You watching cultures, the way they operate in their lives every day, and you just standing there, you witnessing. So I think it's a cool thing. I love it. I love to travel, but I'm ready to make the move to the transition and do some other things.
Excellent. Great. So Dr. Sherell, are there a place on the internet that people can find you, follow you the most, or interact with you, or buy some of your products that you have, or anything where they can find you?
Sure. They can find me on Instagram. I'm at Dr. She, SHE Serves. So they can find me there on Instagram at Dr. She Serves. I also have I have several sites. The one I can think of right away is HTTPS, the semicolon 2/, and it's www.herecomesdr.com. So that's my website, and for the healthcare business, and they can reach me there. And I do have a couple of those link trees. I think the link. I think one of the I think one of those link trees is at the Instagram, so they can find a link tree there. And
I'll put links in the show notes below, so that you can click on those and find you. Well, I just wanted to say thank you very much for your time. I enjoyed our conversation. I know it was valuable for the listeners to give them some insights for things that perhaps they weren't fully aware of. But thank you very much for your time.
And thank you for having me in your space today. I thoroughly enjoyed it.